daddy show. This double extraordinary emblematic flow is brought to you by Audrey and Bella and Maya Angelou. The time is presented by and no, this is not a request. Hundreds of years of silence got a lot on my chest. And we don't need your approval or the style of a dress. Style of a dress, I'm rocking hair wrap and bulletproof vest. And start my level concerning with this mother, you guessed it. Just so we're clear who governs reproductive questions. Not up to anyone's opinion or how I'm protected. I'm part of collectors, so the market getting bigger. And I permit will be major, no longer hidden figures. We are the level of playing over the young queens coming for that wage gap till we recruit the living people. In 97 million women watching, I was with it. In 2017, the same in the status for living. If this a man's world, we came in and grabbed the equipment. And watch the future bring it back by the hand and feel it.
Enjoy it within myself. I just take actions right and be within my own space.
Are you open to my persuader? She's like the most adorable dog ever on the show. She's gorgeous. She's the most adorable dog ever. Yeah. She's very she's free.
Just got back. Oh, really? And yeah, I was looking for you. I could do that, but I want to Hi, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and get started. The music won't play appropriately, but I'm going to go with the PowerPoint working because that's much more important. I wanted to play for you one of my favorite artists, a woman by the name of Sarak. And the song is called I Am, so you can just look at her photos later. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because he had a little bit of a problem. I think my Mac is maybe a little older than the usual, and it was not liking the connection. So my name is Dr. Sybil Rosado. I'm here to talk about bridging the gap and the digital divide between Black women, intersectionality, and redefining the traditional space in the cybersecurity workforce. God bless you. Cyber threats are no longer restricted to the ones and zeros that we traditionally think of when we think of cybersecurity. And what my research looks into is this concept of how Black women have always been in this space. We have been credited with being the matriarchs who resisted slavery, fought through segregation. We stepped forth as the first test case in the civil rights movement. We've been human computers. We've helped put a man on the moon, yet we still remain invisible when it comes to the majority of the tech world, and our presence is barely noticed in the cybersecurity realm. There are glaring absences when we look at cyber and Black female presences. This presentation, I will discuss my research by introducing you to the literature that influenced my questions, defining my research terms, objectives, showing you some of my data, and talking about how that data looked when I pulled it, and discussing the future for this particular area of research and my goals with it. The first concept we need to come to grips with is, what is cybercrime? People think of cybercrime as a bunch of different things a lot of times. They think, oh, that's when somebody hacks your computer and they take something from you. But the reality is that the threat landscape for cybercrime is much broader. We have, unfortunately, this concept that has developed dramatically in the past few years. Cybercrime is no longer simply an activity that people are doing on computers. You all may have had some phone calls that are basically deemed cybercrime. Somebody called you and said your IRS is going to be arrested, and the way you're going to get in trouble if you don't pay this money right now. That's cybercrime. So this concept of what cybercrime is and what the threat landscape is for cybercrime is something that has developed quite dramatically. And what we have to figure out in the new paradigm that we're dealing with is, how do we meet this threat? We need an innovative way to meet the threat. And what they found is that it makes a big difference if you have people who are from diverse backgrounds when you're attempting to meet the threat. Makes sense, right? So all of the crime done with computers, any offense which is computer related, all of those things are seen as cybercrime. We have malicious software. The statistics are growing exponentially. You have crime all over the globe that is centered around cybercrime. India, China, Nigeria are all places where people are, and Russia of course, where people are actively working together to become cyber criminal enterprises. So when we think about all of the discussions about was Russia involved in the 2016 election, of course they were. Any person in cyber will tell you, of course, cybersecurity will tell you, of course they were. That is the quintessential move in cybersecurity, to infiltrate silently, exfiltrate the data, and utilize it to influence people. People don't recognize that this influence may not be in, I crashed your computer or I stole something from you. It may be in that I sent you a bunch of Facebook prompts that changed your mind about how you felt about whatever. Think about it in marketing. If I change your mind and make you buy more McDonald's, when you know McDonald's is bad for you, because it makes you gain weight. You saw the Super Size Me video, so you know that, but all of a sudden you're craving McDonald's. It's tantamount to subliminal advertising. And what we haven't seen is a real push to prevent that kind of level of insidious cybercrime. We're so focused on, did somebody hack your computer? Or is there some kind of ransomware? These are minor things in my opinion. What we need to be focused on are these deeper issues that cyber has brought to the forefront. And what it has brought to the forefront is a need for a deeper understanding of what is considered crime. That means that you need a diverse population looking at what are those crimes. When I first, in my master's program, said, hey, I think that perhaps the election was influenced by, some kind of cybercrime, by digital hacking. They were like, oh no, that couldn't possibly, how could that happen? That's not possible. That's the kind of gap in the thought pattern about what is even considered a crime that is necessary for us to fill. So when we look at the statistics, we know that the landscape is evolving. We know that we've gone from worms, spam, and mass mailers in the 2000s, where that was the main thing you needed to be concerned about, to web threats and spyware, to advanced persistent threats. Advanced persistent threats are actual campaigns where hackers and basically hacker gangs, I'll call them, spend their time trying to get into different types of resources, everything from your nuclear power plant, to your power station, to your water treatment plant, to find out how it works and what kind of code they could potentially send in to make it not work or to make it work inappropriately. These are all things that are being done with cybercrime. But when we start thinking about how to conceptualize the crime, again, this is where this absence of diversity is hurting our country and hurting us in general. So we go from thinking about big things like nuclear power plants to IoT. How many people have on their smartwatch this morning? What user license agreement did you sign to use that smartwatch, and how is it following you around? Everything in our community, from the pacemaker that's in your chest, to the watch that's on your arm, to the cell phone that's always in your pocket, is now a source of this kind of cyber connectedness. We live in a culture now where we are so heavily connected and we don't necessarily understand what that connection means. I live in Columbia, South Carolina, where the young lady recently got into the Uber and was murdered. And now they're pushing, because of course a white woman has been killed, to create a law that makes Uber put a light in the Uber. Now my first thought was, having driven Uber, who's gonna pay for the light? My second thought was, this is not Uber's fault. This is a cultural failure in digital education. We have not educated our populations even about how to navigate the cyber world. So here you have a situation where we're blaming this connectivity on Uber, but the reality is the University of South Carolina, her parents, everybody in our culture is to blame, because we readily use these devices. We readily open ourselves up. I've seen pictures posted all day long, and the metadata on them tells me exactly where you are, and nobody's concerned about that. Nobody's thinking about, how does this expose me? How does this reveal who I am, where I am? I was at the Carolina Cup the other day, and I posted a picture of one of my friends. In 5 minutes, he texts another friend, please take my photo down. He works for the CIA. I forgot. But in 5 minutes, and he's not my friend. Because we think, oh, if you're my friend, that's only the people that are my friends that can see you. No, they're not. So we've opened our lives up in this kind of very unabashed way. So we're walking around naked, but we pretend as if we have clothes on. And then we wonder, why is it that we find these vulnerabilities? And we're concerned about, where are the next ones going to come from? It reminds me oftentimes of the Matrix and the Terminator. We're living in the brand new world of the potential for the Terminator. I have friends who are exploring an artificial intelligence that would frighten you to death, because of the fact that the intelligence is a whole lot smarter than us. But nobody's asking, what about the ethics concerned with this? Is there an ethics class in your computer science program? Did you get taught how to do research ethically? Was anybody even there to raise a hand and say, hey, maybe that's not what we should be doing? There isn't a space for it. So all of these things, we have automobiles, we have our mobile phones. My door at my house, every time somebody walks by, calls me and tells me, hey, somebody passing by your door, girl. What you doing? Are they trying to steal something from your front door? And the packages have stayed at my front door now, amazingly, when they used to take miraculous walks occasionally from Amazon. I look at my children on my Vivid camera. I looked at them last night and watched them not do their homework and play. And they tell me, Mommy, that's creepy, when I yell at them over the intercom. But that's the world we live in, isn't it? When my stepson brought his girlfriend over, I said, now you have to go, because I saw the unauthorized access to my home. So on one hand, yes, we love this. You don't want to not say yes to the UNO agreement because you want the app, don't you? You didn't care that it was a microphone and a camera that could be turned on automatically from somewhere else. And you didn't consider that cybersecurity, because those are the ones and zeros that are supposed to help us, not the ones and zeros that hurt us. So in looking at all of these things, and connected medical devices, I thought about, wow, what if Obama needed a pacemaker? It would be a wrap. Oh, look at that, that's me. It's my family members trying to call me. See, they always, and that's how connected we are. The phone, the laptop, the tablet, all are connected. have the phone on airplane mode. I didn't think to turn the laptop on airplane mode. But the laptop is one of the things that if they were able to answer, if I accidentally, inadvertently answered, they would be observing what I was doing right now. And people don't consider that a part of the problem. So I thought about Obama and if he needed a pacemaker. And I was so concerned that he was going to get assassinated when he was in office that I didn't want him to have a pacemaker because that would be yet another security risk. Any kind of medical device that you have that is automated, that it all sounds good until somebody hacks it. When you think about what are the 5 recent things, my favorite is the Bella Largo, whatever. It's not a problem. This woman walks up to his country club. She has several laptops, phones, pen drives, which are, can use as key loggers, which can, if I drop the pen drive and you plug it in your computer to check what it is, I'm tracing you for the rest of my life. And you're dumb and I win. And he's saying that's not a big deal. That was absolute espionage. And what people haven't figured out is the best part of espionage is not necessarily the ones and zeros. It's the person who has the audacity to walk in and be invisible. And this is where our space is readily needed. When I play cyber games, nobody ever thinks I'm even participating. I can do DEF CON and we play the games where we're working on hacking each other and trying to do exploits. And I never am the person sitting behind the computer. I'm the person trolling around pretending to be a maintenance person. Okay? In the State Guard, they're playing now without me. They're probably not gonna win. But because I'm there looking at people's passwords, I'm there invisible. And that's one of the things that we're gonna talk about today, about how invisibility influences us. So when we have this kind of cyber skills crisis, we have way too many threats and way too few professionals. Way too many threats that people aren't even thinking about as being threats. And that's where this void, this divide has occurred. And what we need to do as women in tech, women in social science, all of these are spaces that we need to be filling, because not only is it too many professionals, but guess what they're doing with the fact that there are too many professionals? They're paying a whole lot of money to these people who are able to fill the gap. So the question for me became, okay, this hyper visibility versus invisibility. I tend to be invisible. When I was in grad school, people would ask me, where's the toilet paper? And I was the grad assistant. Now, when I'm hyper visible, part of what occurs too, when I try to go on the base, no ma'am, you're not supposed to be here. No ma'am, no, we don't have your name on the list. I'm like, look again. It would be under Dr. Rosado, perhaps. Maybe you're just looking under Rosado. Maybe it's on the second page, and it was. But he wasn't even trying to turn to the second page because of that hypervisibility, and I'm not supposed to be in that space. So it's a dual-edged sword. On one hand, I can slip in and do certain things because of what's called social engineering in cybersecurity. I have that ability to be a social engineering expert. But on the other hand, I'm hyper-visible, so there are certain spaces I'll never get to your mainframe computer. I'm not gonna try, but I will get to be your friend at the bar and find out what your password is, perhaps, or steal your key card. So there's a different potential there for me, which is not even a lot of times one that people see themselves as fitting into. But it's a very valuable potential, because just like that woman, that Chinese woman, she is a cybersecurity expert. I am positive of it, and she was practicing social engineering at Bella Largo. I don't know what she was trying to get. I wish she had gotten it. I'm sorry she didn't, but I'm also glad she didn't, because I don't know what things that could possibly have been exposed. He may have the plans for America sitting out on the desk. I'm sure he has no clean desk policy, which is one of the things that you learn in cybersecurity, that there should be a clean desk policy. You shouldn't have your passwords typed up on the back of your window so you can remember it, because you got to remember it. Get a password vault, dude. But we don't know that. People don't know that. So again, it's a cultural issue. And so my background is in sociocultural anthropology, law, police work, and now cybersecurity. So I am the embodiment of this kind of interdisciplinary approach, which has become the necessary medicine for what we're seeing in this level of cybersecurity threat landscapes. So I utilize something called racial invisibility theory, and it basically says that we are, did it just jump without me? Okay. Did it go back?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're invisible in public spaces many times, and what happens is the institutions deem us as invisible, but then we're hyper visible in other spaces because we're hypersexualized, where people look and say, oh, can I touch your hair? I will always be remembered. I'm not going to be, if there's a crime committed, they're going to pick me out of the lineup. I'm not going to be invisible then, but as I move through the regular everyday institution, I'll be invisible. So it's, again, that dual-edged sword. And so from that particular social invisibility theory, I started looking and saying, okay, what is it that's going on in cybersecurity? How can we make more cybersecurity professionals that are women and are of color? So I said, okay, well, let me look at the industry, the history, the government standards for cybersecurity education. I wanted to know, how do you build a cybersecurity expert? What goes in? What's the recipe? And so I said, well, let me figure out what the recipe is. I'll start with what we say is the gold standard for cybersecurity. And these are these centers of excellence that we have. And since I work in an HBCU, of course, I said, well, let me look at the HBCUs, because if I want to be diverse, then perhaps if I go to the HBCUs, I can build more people who are in the profession by tapping these HBCUs. So what is it that the HBCUs are doing? So my study set, my population became HBCUs who had a Center of Excellence designation. And from that, I selected for my project just 3 to start off with. And I said, okay, let me look at Boise State, Hampton, and of course, FAMU, and strike. And I said, okay, the significance of this is if I can create a plan of study, a recipe for making a cybersecurity expert, and I can use it and deploy it at these HBCUs, I can make a bottom line impact on the number of professionals. It seemed like a good plan to me. It seemed like, okay, if I can figure out how to do it, we figure out what the recipe is to make them, we're gonna do the McDonaldization, we're gonna cookie cutter them out and get them made up real quick. So we can increase the number of professionals, we can bridge this digital divide gap, and we can encourage more women, and women of color specifically, to come into the field. I use something called MaxQDA, which is probably an anthropological, it's a qualitative software analysis program, and it allowed me to do a multi-case study. And basically it allows you to draw information that is qualitative and turn it into quantitative data and make it into pretty pictures and stuff, which is what I like. So I coded all of the programs of study at those 3 institutions. And so what I went to and did was basically I pulled the program of study from each school. What is it that you have to take to get out of here to get a BS in cybersecurity at Bowie State, FAMU? What do you need? And then I coded each item, because what they have done as centers of excellence is provide the government with a program of study that is supposed to be an excellent program of study in cybersecurity. So when coding, I used something called Code Matrix Browser, which gave me the frequency of times I saw the particular kind of class being asked for, and then a Code Cloud, which gave me the intensity, and then something called MaxMap, which connected the different types of courses and showed me what kinds of courses were being asked for. What I found was, oh, did it just crash? It encountered an error.
Yeah.
Okay. What I found was the majority of the schools were asking for primarily quantitative skills, primarily math-based skills, primarily skills that were traditionally male-oriented areas. What I also found was, is that what they needed for cybersecurity? To become a cybersecurity expert? Is that what you need? To be in the field of cybersecurity, did you need quantitative calculus 2 and discrete mathematics? No, you didn't.
Yeah.
So what I found was we were asking people for these degrees, these courses to take, but these courses don't translate into career life skills. They translate into hurdles. They translate into places that, programs of study that people look at and say, no, not me. Calculus 2 is where you start at? No way. I think I'll go into whatever else, anything else. I'll go into the biological sciences. So I found that women tend to be more heavily in STEM, heavily in the biological sciences, which what? Pays less. So primarily the technical courses were required. The technical courses were clustered around heavy-duty mathematical classes that had absolutely nothing to do with every job in cybersecurity. Certainly, if I want to do some kind of code busting, and I'm doing where I do algorithms and try to break passwords. Sure, I need the math. Yeah, I took the class, I was like, ooh, I need a tutor. But to do social engineering, to do management, to do the kinds of things that a CIO does, CISSP, the $300,000 a year jobs, does not require this level of math. But I'm being dissuaded from pursuing this field by these programs of study because they appear to be not for me. When you go in and you say, okay, we're gonna all learn how to code, I've seen the code. I saw it, it passed by me. I read the book. I understood it was another language, you know? But I also understood that was not where I needed to be in the space, and I had enough of who I was to say, okay, thank you, appreciate it. I understand that that's how that works, and I see you should never put the period there, and you really need to be very careful about how you type, because you will not get garbage in is garbage out. I got all of that. Database, got all of that. That's the one B I got. The horror of database security. However, none of those things were the things that really are what people are doing every day to make a whole bunch of money. And I said, well, why is this? Why is it that this is what we pretend like you need, but this is really what you need over here? You really don't even need a BS degree or a master's degree. You need a certification. You need experience. Those are the things that are far more powerful in the industry and make you get these high-level jobs. Why are they not telling people that at these HBCUs? So those were the questions I came up with. I coded for different concepts. So for example, the Department of Homeland Security has these keywords that they have you teach in these different departments and areas. So what I found was that at Bowie State, basic scripting and programming is primarily what they teach for their cybersecurity program. Where can you learn basic scripting and programming? I think ITT Tech shut down. But that's where you learn basic scripting and programming. And I never wanted to go to ITT Tech. But that's who has that kind of degree and background. And so the ITT Tech guy is going to be better situated for a job than you are with the BS degree from Bowie State because of what you've taken as your coursework till you get your experience in. So what you see here, and can you see it? Is it? Okay. So the CTX is cybersecurity technical, and so that's the technical line. So all of those are technical classes that they were required. So they had 34 codes for technical classes, and the word cloud showed you the intensity compared to other things. Can you even see in there humanities, arts, and social sciences? I think it's there, right? Can you see it's like really tiny? Yeah, it's pretty tiny. Because I coded for the entire program of study, not just the parts that were cybersecurity, because I wanted to know what made overall a cybersecurity expert. And then when we look at the code hierarchy, you find that, oh, look, all of these things, core technical knowledge over here, all of this red stuff is reverse software engineering, network defense, basic networking, scripting, operation system concepts, basic cryptography, that's where you need math, systems programming, advanced algorithms. Wait a second, and then the rest of the program over here, wait, pre-calculus, calculus, calculus 2, math statistics, linear algebra. I don't even know what linear algebra is. I don't want to know. I'll never take it. I'll never pass it. However, because it's in this program of study, if I went to Bowie State, I couldn't get a degree in cybersecurity without at least being exposed to it, which certainly I would not mind being exposed. I just don't want to have to pass it. Did I get a PF? Can I pass me on this class instead? Same thing when we looked at FAMU. FAMU, very high in the CTK, so the cybersecurity technical skills off the chain. They had a higher pop in humanities, arts, and social sciences because they're my alma mater. And they still, however, look at the contrast, Haas, math, and then we have non-technical skills. So they actually have some non-technical skills. So they're teaching ethics. They're teaching management skills. The soft skills that the industry is saying we're missing. We get all these very nerdy guys who can do all this coding, and they can't talk to other people. They have absolutely no personal skills. They can't work as a group. They can't work as a team. They're weird. Can you help us? And I say, well, when you have these classes that are required for them, no, I can't help you because the paradigm for education is shifted and skewed in a way that prevents you from wanting to even participate as a person who's well-rounded. A well-rounded person does not take this program of study. Again, when you look at the hierarchy, you see over here the non-technical that's in blue. See the very tiny amount of non-technical stuff, and all of the red stuff, that's all the technical stuff. And then the humanities, arts, and social sciences, and they actually have what I admire, a class called Math for Computer Science. which is what you actually need. You need math for computer science. All of these programs could be run with math for computer science, which has some of all of those elements in it, but not as deeply as the rest. So you look at the next, Hampton. Now Hampton, look how big in the code cloud, humanities, arts, and social sciences. Why is it so large? Anybody want to guess? Because they actually have a program where they say they're trying to create interdisciplinary products. They are working towards creating an interdisciplinary product in cybersecurity. They have changed their program of study to be broader and more interdisciplinary. Still though, how many times do they code for technical? They still have technical as the highest, which is fine, but they also have a very high level of non-technical courses that are required. And they have humanities, arts, and social sciences, where you learn your critical thinking skills at, where you learn your ethics at, where you learn it's not good just because you can at, which is something that people who have this kind of power need to know. So they became the model that I decided we should be following, and we should tweak this model. I am still looking at the rest of the HBCUs that have this designation, and the Department of Homeland Security and NSA have created a non-technical track that no school in the nation has taken advantage of and become certified under. So nobody is certified with the non-technical track yet, because I keep going to the certification program meetings and I'm asking them, has anybody been certified yet? So as of February, nobody has been certified in this non-technical track, although they authorized it in November, which of course it takes forever to get certified anyway, so I don't expect anybody to be certified right away. But the trick is, no schools are approaching this because they are not aware that the paradigm is failing, and that is part of why the pipeline is empty. And what I'm trying to show people is that the paradigm is failing, and that's why the pipeline is empty. Let's get the pipeline going on the HBCU level so that we can fill the pipeline with experts who are ready and able and capable of protecting us and being the cyber warriors of tomorrow. So when we talk about this designation, we have the pathway, but few schools have taken it. Hampton has started this model, and they have a joint program of study in cybersecurity. And what we see is we've got to embrace this kind of innovation and diversity in cybersecurity, or we're not going to be protected. We're going to have a problem. And people remember when they started, I used to, thank you for calling JCPenney catalog. This is silly. May I have the catalog number of your first order, please? That was $10 an hour in 1990, 89, 90, when I first got into law school. They're still making $10 an hour, but they're not calling Nashville where I was. Where are they calling? They're calling India, they're calling Jamaica, they're calling wherever that's not America. And this is part of why the loss of jobs is occurring, because we are not educating people to take the place where they need to be in professions. We're educating people to be in McDonald's. We're educating people to work in just plain old non-critical thinking jobs. And what we need to do is embrace this kind of concept of innovation and diversity and say, look, we can't let another set of people take our jobs. And we really can't let them take them in cyber, because this is a national security issue. I can't outsource my computer analysis and data analysis to China and not expect that I'm gonna have some problems. When I just told you about advanced persistent threats and the fact that there are gangs out there trolling for how to break in, not to your little personal computer, but into the institution's computer, into Amazon, into Dell, into the US government, which they have. And one of the other problems we have, of course, is who's gonna report that? Is there even a law about reporting it for everybody? Beyond your medical records and your credit card records, is there a requirement that we report that? When Marriott gave my passport information to whoever in India, and I'm sure they're out there pressing one now, making themselves a passport. Trump needs to worry about that, not the wall. So here you have a situation where we have this kind of breach that exposes us, and we may not even know about it for years, because there are no laws in place, because we haven't educated the lawyers in cybersecurity, we haven't educated the legislators in cybersecurity. There are no laws against what they are doing. If I ask you to send me $1, and I ask a million people, and I say, if you send me $1, you'll be magically rewarded, it's not against the law, y'all. It's not. So here's a situation where the law hasn't caught up to the actions possible. They had the GoFundMe account, people who made the fraudulent, he's a homeless man, blah, 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 remember that? And they got all this money and then they went partying in Vegas. And then they posted it on social media. I'm like, if you're gonna do a crime, don't post it on social media. I want you to get away. Let me help you out. Don't post it on social media. Don't be, flossing with your money. But they had to figure out how to charge them. There was a lot of back talk about how do we charge these people? What if they actually done this wrong? If I ask you to send me money, is it wrong? No. What was wrong was lying and saying he was a vet, saying he was homeless. But they could have just said, hey, can you send this guy some money? He looks real bad. He did. He beat up. Then it wouldn't be against the law. So here you have to figure out that we've got to get diverse minds and diverse disciplines into this area of study and management, because if we don't, we are going to be very vulnerable. We are going to be in trouble when it comes to where in the future we can go with this. All the schools that hold these designations need to offer non-technical pathways, and we need to look at the departmental, the faculty in the departments. Part of what I figured out was the reason they're so math heavy oriented is when I went back and I looked at what the degrees were for the people in the departments. They were making classes that they could teach, not classes that the industry needed. They were making classes to keep their jobs, not to make jobs for their students. I'm like, well, is that how we do it? And if we want more people and more women in cybersecurity, we've got to have this kind of educational and cultural change. We've got to be advocates for this kind of change. So when people say to you, I'm a cybersecurity expert, you don't ask them, can they code? That's not the first thought. You think, what do you do? It's a mindset change that is across the board, from the educational paradigm to the employment paradigm, because the other thing is that industry is looking for a product. They're constantly, what's the next product? What's going to protect me? They look for this product and they don't look at how the processes are what are going to protect you. The clean desk policy, the fact that I presented, for example, I work at Benedict College. Last year, I'm in the cybersecurity program. They say, hey, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I'll do this analysis for creating a cybersecurity education program. So I created an entire cybersecurity education program for faculty and students at the college. I sent it to them. I'm still waiting, but then we got hacked in November. We were victims of ransomware, which perhaps if we had done the educational portion, the process, they bought a product though that's going to protect us now. So now I can't surf the web and ask for breasts, because breasts are banned. They're on the blacklist. Can't ask for breasts. Got to ask the webmaster of the CIO they hired, who's a guy. Can I see breasts? I'm teaching sociology today. Can I see some breasts? Talking about sex, can I see breasts? That's banned. But I can see World Fight. What is that thing called? World Star. I can see World Star. So that doesn't have a banned word in it. It's a process, not a product. And that's another part of the mindset that has to be changed, that people are looking for this product. Let me get my Norton, let me get my whatever's gonna clean this laptop to make it stop doing what it's doing now. The product is what people focus on a lot of times in cyber, not the process. The people run the processes. And people are the biggest, the weakest link in cyber. You will open that, you will click on it, you will send the money. My dean came to me and said, look at this, all I have to do is send this money and they're gonna make a YouTube channel for me and I'm gonna make a bunch of money. And I said, if you send that money, you're gonna fire me now. So I'm not letting you send that money, but she's 80 years old. So of course she wanted to send the money. She didn't recognize that that's simply a scam. Everybody can make a YouTube channel and charge for it and monetize it. It doesn't cost any money. But because of how it's packaged, it wasn't even fraudulent. It simply took advantage of the fact that she didn't know about the technology. So here we have all of these kinds of things. When we talk about making black females cyber warriors, we've got to infuse the culture with this kind of STEM and STEAM belief. We've got to create this black girl magic in our K through 12 kids. We have to say, hey, you can do this. I'm forcing my kids to go to a robotics class right now, at home, just so they can be exposed to it. Maybe they don't like robotics, but they're gonna see it, and I'm gonna keep exposing them to it. I'm gonna keep working. I was very excited to hear about the different things that people are doing here, because that's the kind of thing we need to have a consortium of creating a pipeline of mindset that women can be in this space and we should not be invisible in this space. And how we do that is starting at the very beginning. We move from that small area to the K through 12 to creating a sponsor. You don't need a mentor, you need a sponsor. You don't need somebody who's just gonna tell you how to write your resume. You need somebody who's gonna connect you to people who make a difference. You need somebody who's gonna say, hey, I'm gonna take it upon myself to help you, not just to direct you where the help might be. And we have the concept that, oh, we need mentors. No, we need sponsors. We need sponsorship. And that's a paradigm shift. So when we think about how to create this, life cycle, and we look at the life cycle of cyber, there are all these different possibilities. You've got security leaders, you've got pre-professionals, you've got mid-level, senior level, you've got all of these potential jobs that don't require the ones and zeros. But if you've got the ones and zeros, you get all the potential jobs. Uh-oh. Did it die? There we go. Is it on? Where's that guy? Good, I was always at the end, right?
Yeah.
Did it come up?
No.
So in the end, we have to say, okay, how are we going to create this space? How are we going to recreate this space and reclaim this space? Come on,
It's like,
You almost had it. It's
yeah, it might be
in their court.
Yeah.
Come on.
because it's just going in and out.
Nope. Okay. He should have stayed in here. Or I should have used my own PowerPoint projector. Well, top 7 cyber degrees to watch for: bachelor's, master's, and certifications. The critical point here is that we've got to make people aware that you don't have to go back to school and spend 4 years to get a master's, a PS degree, a master's degree, a PhD in cybersecurity to be in this space. You can get a certification online if you need to. My school costs $30,000 a year. I'm constantly telling students, get certified, start working. Perhaps wherever you work will pay for you to go to school here. That's the kind of stuff that occurs if you have a certification. You can get a certification by getting a Groupon and learning how to do this. This is a lot of self-taught stuff. Remember what I said at the beginning? This used to be what IT Tech did. They just closed down. And so now colleges are picking up where they left off. And so the reality is this is not necessarily the kind of traditional degree that someone has to have. It can be alternative pathways to this degree. We need to change the pathway we have for the actual formal degree, but we also need to recognize that the majority of people in the industry right now do not have these formal degrees. They were already in the IT track from the IT tech world, and they fell into this area. And much like when computers first began to be very big, my friends were like, oh, we're gonna send you a ping, Sybil. And I was like, what's that? You're gonna ping me? You're gonna ping your computer? And my friend at Oak Ridge Nuclear Facility sent me a ping, and I was very excited about it. The space was empty. I was one of the first people to join Match.com because I was one of the first people to have internet access because I was an early adopter. So I have a lifetime membership to Match.com. I'm a founding member. But that early adoption mindset is what we need to do here. Yay! So that early adoption mindset is what we need to do here. We need to be in the space. We need to put ourselves in the space, and that we need to say that there are all these different pathways. You don't have to say to the mother of 4, hey, you gotta go back to school. Tell her to get a certificate.
Yeah.
Tell her to go to the little classes online, that she doesn't have to go somewhere, and that she doesn't have to pay a whole bunch of money, but put people in the space no matter how you think they could be in the space. And that's that kind of innovative thinking about how to bridge this gap. And that is 27, and 28 is, oh, look, there, there's just citations, because I cited all that stuff I pulled down. I stole all those pictures. And any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Yeah.
So my name is Alexandra Hayes. Hi. I currently work in the cybersecurity department, and it's my first job out of college. And my degree is computer science, but it's like IT is my concentration. So I'm on track this year to go participate in the GSEC boot camp presented by SAN.
Yep.
And thankfully my company's paying for it.
Oh, yes, because that's expensive.
Yeah, it is very expensive. And $6,000 and
Yes.
then the on-demand package is like another $700. So yeah, thank you for them.
Thank you,
know,
and that's
for
what
that.
people should be doing.
Right, but so in preparation for that, and of course I'd like to go a little further and do some other things, but my background, I don't have all those technical, math classes and things like, I took calculus and that was it. So, okay, so.
All you need to do is study, because they're gonna give you the material.
Everything.
SANS gives you everything.
Right.
They give you everything, it's magic.
Right.
And then they coach you and try to push you to pass. They want you to
Right.
pass. And once you pass, you're done. Get the certifications. You are in prime position to get the certifications. Get the certifications, get experience. You're already getting the experience. 2 or 3 years, you'll be ready to be a CIO.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what? Ching ching. And you can hire me to come in and do some social engineering for you.
No.
Yes.
First of all, I love your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have surveys for you. Don't get away. You gotta catch that
We got you. My question is, and so I'm in industry, and there's the perception within industry that it's still the old way of thinking of these are the things that you need,
Right.
and all these math classes and all of that. How can we help influence the shift of that mindset and that perception that's needed as you start building this pipeline to bring these folks in?
Part of it is creating the shift in education, and the U.S. government has already created the shift by creating that non-technical track. They are aware that, wait a second, this is nonsense. We got these people doing this, and we need this. We have guys that come out of school and they can't work together. They have no soft skills. That's what they were telling us. They have no soft skills. So wait, where do you get soft skills? They have no critical thinking skills. They have no ethics. Well, we're not teaching it. How do you expect them to have it? So part of it has already occurred because of the federal government, and they have something called NICE, which is National Industry, blah, 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 Cybersecurity Education Standards, and that tells you what you should have to do certain jobs. It's like a flow chart of you do this and this and this and this, and that means you can do this job. That's part of it, that they've changed that to include this kind of non-technical. But when we talk about industry adapting it, we've got the same good old boys who are also going to be preserving their jobs and their friends' jobs, much like the mathematicians who are in these computer science programs. It's going to be an uphill battle, but it's got to be a battle because it's a battle for our national security. It's a battle for our personal security. The first time the stalker comes to your house because he's found you on Facebook, you're going to be mad. And then if he kidnaps your daughter because they found you on Facebook, you're going to be mad. You understand that, but you don't think about how I deployed something that just took a penny out of everybody's account, a penny out of 1 million accounts, a penny out of 1 billion accounts. I don't check my bank account statement for the penny. Did you call the bank about the penny you saw that seemed like an extra penny? All somebody has to do is write the exploit. And somebody like me who could come in and talk very nice and become friends with somebody, there's a lot more to cyber than the ones and zeros, and that's what we've got to get people into seeing. And as people continue to, unfortunately, as people continue to get hacked, continue to get violated, they keep trying to find that product when what we need to point them to as the educators, as the person with a PhD, a JD, a master's degree. I need to point them and say, no, you don't need a product, you need a process. You need processes in place. You need to educate your people. They're the weakest link.
Yeah.
They will click on the link. They will let me surf in behind them with no ID card on. All I have to have is the badge on. There's nothing on the other side. I'm just wearing the badge. And next thing you know, I'm in your server room, sticking things in, and my friends who can do the math and can hack are out there pulling data from. One of our friends who worked with me gave a presentation, and he was like, okay, how many people want to know what's your social security number and all your business? You tell me your name. He typed a few and pulled up all my life history and social. That I understand. We've got to get enough executives to understand that it's not just personal, it's political, it's national, it's business, it's industry, it's hitting all of these areas. It's not just, oh, am I Amazon and I'm getting hacked? Some credit card numbers. That's minor. What I'm concerned about is the electric grid being shut down from China. the Russian mafia running our elections for president? Because they are. And that's what you have to be concerned about. That kind of mindset that understands that this is just old school propaganda, y'all. They used to call it political science. They stopped teaching it. Because again, liberal arts is under attack. And we think it's worthless. But liberal arts isn't under attack because all that we saw in the 2016 election was propaganda. It was like, I read about this in college. This is how you do it. This is the same thing as dropping leaflets that say that black men are monkeys in France during the war, so that the women wouldn't mess with them and they would be treated badly. Wait a second, that's propaganda, isn't it? So I know what it looks like, but when it's happening to me, I'm surprised. It's like when institutionalized racism, when I was first exposed to it, I read about it in college, but then when I got to Vanderbilt and my teacher told me, well, I don't know what's wrong with your writing. Perhaps you should talk to the black writing group about it.
Wow.
Or better yet, why don't you lose weight? What? So I went and ran, lost weight, talked to the black writing group. Because I didn't recognize it on the ground. I had read about how it worked. This is racism. But I hadn't been exposed to it up front like that. I had been exposed to it where we went to Forsyth with my sorors and some white people spit on us. And we had to yell. And that overt racism is what I had been exposed to. Covert racism? Institutionalized racism? I read about it. I didn't know what it looked like. It's the same concept when it comes to cyber. That people think, oh, this is what cybersecurity is. No, it's much more insidious. It's much more problematic because it is attacking our way of life and our perception of who gets to speak out in America. The campaigns that are on social media now are influencing people's perception of what are American rights. People don't understand how powerful that is. If I all of a sudden think if I work for the ACLU, everybody gets to talk, even the wicked people, the crazy people, I'm gonna stand up for them all, right? But if social media changes people's mindsets and enough people think that they're all a part of this group, that we all agree, this is what you see happening with the Trump situation. They're all agreeing in concert online. They have all of these groups online where they high-five each other about their crazy racist beliefs. And they get hyped up and believe more and more, and then that becomes action. It used to be against the law to yell fire in a theater, but it's not against the law to yell fire online. Don't vaccinate your kid. Send them to school with my kid so they can get mumps and measles and rubella. Huh? Yeah, that's coming from social media. That's coming from this kind of background ability of people to talk that's not being monitored, that is being infiltrated by certain people and ideas because they understand the power of the digital culture. Many people don't understand how powerful digital culture is and how it can influence the way we live if we don't watch out.
Hi, Rosalind McCullough, University of Alabama in Huntsville. So recently, a YouTuber discovered that on a lot of family videos,
Momo?
a lot of family videos, they were like, there was this underground thread of pedophiles that were like posting and on these family videos, and so in response, they stopped allowing people to post underneath that. I wanted to get your perspective on that. First of all, of how their algorithms didn't catch it. Somebody just happened to be doing it. And then also their response of not allowing because a lot of those family videos and things, that's how they monetize and make their money, is they have a following. Mm-hmm. And so now they're not able to post under there. I'd like to get your perspective on that in a cybersecurity vision of, their response to it, or is there something in a cybersecurity way that they could have implemented better, or do you think that their response was good?
Part of what happens, because it's such an open world, you can't watch everything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you don't have to blacklist some things sometimes. Mm-hmm. The other thing that's going on is there's a whole bunch of urban myths and legends going on out there when it comes to cyber threats. So what we have to figure out is how to discern what is real and what is a threat. And oftentimes I've seen a bunch of stuff that wasn't even real, that people hyped up and said it was a threat, and then there was a response even though it wasn't real. And then on the other half, you see people bullying and doing things that aren't monitored. And when you talk about whether or not they stopped it, and you gotta remember, money is money. What's gonna drive Americans? They don't wanna stop monetizing those videos. They can't turn it off, because then you turn off the money. So a lot of times we have to be vigilant about how we protect ourselves, because they're not protecting us. They're selling to us. Facebook is selling stuff to us. You know the algorithms that are out there. If I look for pantyhose, next thing I know, pantyhose are popping up on Facebook. 1,000 times. Different kinds of pantyhose. Pantyhose I would love to buy. I bought a new router. I bought this Orbi that they have right here because it kept coming up. They kept saying it was so good and how fabulous it was. And you look once for it, so you must want it. Those algorithms influence my perception of what is good and valuable. It used to be that values came from people. Values come from computers now. Values come from computer interaction now. It is a dangerous paradigm that we are not monitoring. And if we don't monitor what's happening, anything can happen. So I do think that, yeah, they had to respond. But it's much like the whole thing about turning off the algorithm for recognition of gorillas instead of fixing it to recognize black people's faces.
Right.
So, you know.
Sort of stopgap versus let's really be
Of course,
vigilant.
because that's easier. That's easier. Blacklist. I can't search breast.
Hi, so I'm also into cybersecurity, and I think I want to know your views. Should we push for maybe cybersecurity
Pardon me,
fundamentals?
building your personal board of advisors at Salon 2.
Sorry, it was telling me where I'm supposed to be. It's my boss. I'm sorry, my boss called. The computer.
Okay, I was saying, should we push for fundamentals of cybersecurity in the tech world, like on in our courses in colleges?
Yes,
or
of course. Just like we should be pushing for how to run a bank account, how to invest. Those should be basic classes. That's what happened with this girl in the Uber. She should have been taught. You check the Uber tag number. You make him say your name. You don't just hop in the car. You know, you look at the picture. It's a picture. The Uber already has the stuff in place, but people aren't educated to use it. When I drove Uber, a couple of people jumped in my car that were the wrong people. But it was my first week of driving Uber, and I didn't make that mistake again, because I took them to where they were going, and then the person who I was supposed to pick up called me and was mad because their credit card had been charged. So here you have a situation where it's a training issue. It's not a ones and zeros issue. It's a people issue. It's a soft skills issue. We've got to start training. I'm teaching my daughters right now, hey, look, no, don't click on that link. No, because my daughter's like, Mommy, I can win. I can win. I'm going to win an iPad. Look, I was like, please, God, no. Don't push that button on the phone. Because it's malware. That's all it is. But she had to be taught that because she was going to win. And she was going to push that button and spin the wheel till it broke the phone. And then she'd bring it to me and say, the phone doesn't work or the computer doesn't work. I can't just hand her a laptop and expect that she would know how to use it. I've got to train her how to be safe in the digital world. We've got to move towards a cyber safe culture, a digital culture. We're in a digital culture, but we're still acting like we're in a regular 3D, regular culture. We're not. We're in a digital culture. You make your connections, you order your food. My mom is still trying to figure out why Amazon sent her 3 cosplay wigs for my daughter instead of 1. I was like, Mom, you probably pushed the button 3 times. Or maybe it's a glitch. Who knows? Call them up and get your money back. But the bottom line is we live in a digital culture. I think that would be the last question again. Thank you. Please do the survey because maybe next time I can come back.